Yeah.
Can I inject some positivity into this a little bit?
Of course. Yeah.
Okay. I want to do a little quick comparison, because I think it's typical for media, for fans to take a step back and go, this team, exactly what happened last year is happening again this year. And it's just not.
Oh,
right?
no, not even close.
Like you look at, and Christian and I have had this conversation over this last week.
Last year, they're out of conference. They botched their out of conference schedule.
So if you look at January 20th of last year as a date that's going to ring home for a lot of Tiger fans, because that was the game against SMU in the FedEx Forum when Penny was asked in the post game after a pretty rough loss, a 70-62 loss.
Stupid.
Quit asking me stupid effing questions. That was that game. At the end of that game, that game felt like, I remember being on the baseline during that game, guys, and going, something is off here. Like, they had just come back they had beat Cincinnati. That was the game.
And Penny was talking about, these are a bunch of me guys, and they have to figure it out, and they have to sell out for the team more.
They had beat Alabama December 14th, busted Alabama, crushed them by 16 points, or by 14 points at Memphis. They had come back, and they had lost to Tulane in New Orleans, which is always a tough game in New Orleans. They won two conference games. Then they came back and they beat Cincinnati in that game that Tyler Harris had that steal at the end to close it out. Just the crazy atmosphere of that game. And then they went on and they lost 3 straight games. UCF, East Carolina at the buzzer, and then they lost to SMU. And that SMU game was so strange, man, because it felt off. The team felt like there was a lot of guys out. There were a lot of injuries. There was just the energy level inside that arena, the fan base, that nobody showed up for the game. It was just crazy. This Temple game this past week felt like that SMU game, watching it from afar, because obviously I wasn't in Philly, home on the couch watching the game, and it felt, the way I saw the players, the way they were looking, they're in the middle of the grind of conference play, and they still won that game. They fought it out, they ground it out, and they won that game. Yeah. Last year, in that very same time period, they lost that SMU game and had the major blow up. They came out of that game last year, January 20th, 9-8 on the year. They were 9-8 after that SMU game. This year, they're 13-5. Had obviously a much tougher and a much more successful non-conference schedule. This team feels tougher this year. Wouldn't you agree? Would you agree with that?
Older guys, experienced guys who have been through the grind of all these things.
And there's not that negative cloud hanging over this team. It felt heavy last year. It just felt like they're never going to come out of this, and they eventually did, and they eventually started playing better. It just feels like a switch can be flipped easier with this team because you do have veteran guys, like you're saying.
Well, Penny at that point in the year was talking about me guys, like I was saying, me guys, and we have a bunch of young guys who need to figure it out. These older guys need to get out of the way for the younger guys, and there was that dynamic and that issue. You were like, damn, can they flip a switch?
Right.
What's going on behind the scenes? I don't think you have those massive questions about what's going on behind the scenes this year. There's a clear pecking order. No one is it doesn't feel like anyone's overreaching or overdoing what their role is. So I feel like this team is in a substantially better spot, but that being said, it's still fragile, right? Yeah. You still have to find a way to eke out a bunch of wins in conference and not step on landmines.
Yeah, and keeping a positive spin on it. Like you said, this stretch coming up, especially these next 4 games that I just mentioned, these are the perfect get-right games.
Yeah.
Because 3 of those 4 games, you're favored rather heavily.
Yeah.
3 of those 4 games you should win pretty easily. We'll see what happens in them, but you are the better team, and I think you're the better team in all those games because I do think they're better than Cincinnati. But same thing, road environment, who knows? But I think this is a good stretch for them to go gain some confidence.
This is in that what you were talking about, Kenny, where they were 9-8 after that SMU game. They were a lot more fragile then. Right,
absolutely.
They were out of the tournament. There was no hope. You said you had to go sweep Houston, and they ended up doing it. Right. this team is in a substantially better spot. But then again, what they did in the out-of-conference schedule what they did on the out-of-conference schedule, and then you flip it and you look at what they're doing with the conference schedule, you just start to press a few alarms. But I am in no way freaking out.
No, it is not panic button time.
It's not panic.
No.
It's nothing like that yet. But, you lose at home to Wichita State on Thursday, panic could set in a little bit more. But this team, I think, granted, overall, what they did in the out of conference can boost them up, and they're fine. They're in a fine spot. They just need to get some things right.
And I think they'll be fine. Like I could look like an idiot in 2 or 3 weeks, but I think they'll be fine. Like I think what we're talking about, I think some of those issues will get fixed. Obviously, guys will come back into the rotation. I'm with you. I think that's huge. And I don't see any way Penny Hardaway and Frank Haith, who I believe are two of the better defensive coaches in the country, are going to find out a way to get this fixed. Yeah. And I believe that. So I think they're fine. I get when losses come up or close games against inferior teams like Temple. I get, as fans, people are more doom and gloom, and it's more, this is terrible. But we are not in panic button stage yet.
They're
it is not there.
13-5. They're 4-1. Right. We've seen a good team. We've seen a team that can compete on the road against Alabama, who is one of the best teams in the country. We know that there's something to be unlocked, right? We know that there's a team in there that can really compete against the best teams in the country.
Yep.
It's just got to get back healthy, and they got to get back to their ways defensively. And I know it's easy to say that right here. They got to go get it done, though. So
yep. So
we shall see.
Just to, I don't want anybody in our comment section saying Gabe's not right. They're not 4-1. They're 3-2 right now in conference.
No. And SEC play.
SEC. He was talking about against the SEC.
Yeah. My apologies.
All good, but they are 3-2 in conference.
Good cover, Kenny. Just in case.
Yes.
Well, he's always looking out.
Just in case.